Hi, friends. I'm Sterling Hart, and this is Dreamlight, where we work with dream interpretation and using the insights in the waking life. What does it mean to see a tornado in a dream? This is a common dream symbol. I've had several of these dreams over the years, as did various people who came to our weekly dream group. Tornadoes deal with sudden changing perspectives, a whirlwind of change. Our outward situation may not change much, at least at first, but inwardly we see things differently. It is common to see a tornado in a dream through a window or a doorway or at a distance on the horizon, something that will represent perspective. Where in your life are you dealing with change? Are you beginning something new? Is there something new you have to learn? Are there challenges to what you believe? Are there arguments and turmoil? Are you overwhelmed or being pressured by circumstances to accept something? The winds of change can be like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz and lift you to a new world. This can be bewildering. This can be a change that we see coming, like the ending of some activity or relationship, and the question is what comes after? But the tornado indicates it represents a new experience, one we don't think or feel we are prepared for. Tornadoes can also represent dealing with confusion, not knowing where to start, and being overwhelmed. Houses often represent your sense of self. A tornado destroying your home would be dealing with some disturbance to understanding who you are. Destroying a car would represent your path, what gets you through life, or the value you assign a career or relationship. Tornadoes are a natural symbol dealing with physical forces. The wind, just like the sun or moon, is something everyone experiences. The wind is related to communication because you hear it as well as feel it. A windy day fills your ears. It also represents worlds of the mind, the way we think about the world as it is, or works, or how it will be, and these can be destroyed by new experiences or ideas. We quickly build new ones. Tornadoes can represent creativity and adaptability as we change our views. This is the idea of the winds of change. Worlds of the mind are those things we have a mental picture of. For instance, we may have ideas about different parts of the world we have never been to. A novel creates a world in people who don't exist. A new idea or experience can challenge our beliefs and disrupt our mental world, our expectations, values, and understanding. For instance, if you work hard towards a goal and that goal is reached, suddenly there is nothing to work for. Or we can think of the Wizard of Oz as the tornado that takes you far from Kansas. For example, I had a tornado dream where I saw it blowing through a parking lot. Cars were being thrown about but landing okay. There were no people in the dream. On examining it, the associations were with work. The view of the parking lot was familiar. At the time, I had a boss that had opened a new store in another town nearby as part of a strip mall. I agreed to help part-time to get it up and running. Initially, the boss said he would run it, but then he started to become unavailable. The boss changed and began to become very critical and suspicious. He became very difficult to work with, not answering phone calls and being curt with other employees. I was the one that got along with everyone and became the go-between, being very accommodating between our suppliers, employees, and the boss. Then the boss informed me that he would no longer work at his new store. I suddenly had to hire a new person. The boss made some weird decisions about our product. Then I got a phone call to visit him at the original store, and the boss confided to me about his serious medical condition. He had refused the pain meds to deal with extreme chronic pain. He let me tell others. The people involved realized it wasn't just stress, and it shifted how we looked at it. In the dream, the cars represented people's vehicles as a symbol, their job, and the way they were moving through life. And in the aftermath, I realized how much I had taken on compared to what I thought I was going to do. Tornadoes are violent and destructive. Arguments, clashing over ideas and aims, fighting for control, and the loss of one's place, one's sense of self. These don't need to be between people. They can be within our own heads. They can be within ourselves, and we look at our situation and fight with ourselves over what to do. This kind of discord can cause tornado dreams. Sometimes they represent the overcoming of fear as we gain some perspective on the destructive energies in our life. Seeing the tornado at a distance or through a window or a doorway gives you perspective. Gossip, in the sense of someone telling you things, creating a picture of other people, true or most often distorted, can also be represented by tornadoes. Personal associations are always important. Hopefully you have never been in a tornado, but even the tornado warnings, when sirens go off and you move into a basement, can link you to the idea behind the symbol. Is there something you are afraid of? Is there something you are avoiding? Have you learned something that the implications have yet to be thought through or dealt with? Do you feel that there's something you're being told to fear that you don't think is real? What does a storm cellar or safe room mean to you? Strange things happen with tornadoes. For instance, a common story is for debris to be found many tens of miles away carried by the storm. Things can be lifted and dropped again in unusual places or positions. Tornadoes are forces outside of our control, like any natural disaster. What happens after a tornado? Usually the community pulls together and works to repair the damage. So a tornado in a dream can be associated with your personal support network. The way in which you see them or how you feel about them can be represented in the dream. Like a bolt of lightning, tornadoes descend from above. They can represent significant changes to the world that affect you, your life, and, more to the point, your view of it and your sense of self can be dramatically changed, leaving you to pick up the pieces or find a new sense of self and a new way of being in your world. My friend's son, who was 18, had a dream where his younger self was riding in a car and saw a tornado out the window. It was black and it started to head towards the car. He kept telling the driver where it was, and they would turn and move in a different direction, only for the tornado to follow them. It occurred to him in the dream that you can't outrun a tornado, and that they should seek shelter. At that point he woke up. He didn't know who was driving, but it seemed like his dad would be the most likely. He had never seen or experienced a tornado before. It reminded him of images in the news. He didn't know where he was going in the car, but giving directions reminded him of when he went to a family reunion at a park. They had rented a cabin. He and his cousins and a couple of friends who came with them all decided to eat at a mall. One of their friends was a girl that he got interested in. He knew his way around, and he had been telling him where to drive to get to the place. And there was this strange feeling of being accepted and leading the group, even though he wasn't driving. He also felt the need to impress the girl. When examining this, he described himself as not very social. He felt part of the out-group in high school. His parents had moved in the middle of high school, so he didn't fit in or know many people. He hadn't dated or had a girlfriend, so the trip to the mall opened him up to a new world. This seemed a link to the tornado, but it was the sense of trying to find some place comfortable. He couldn't outrun the tornado and needed to seek shelter. He had been uncomfortable for some time after the reunion because he felt restless and not himself and couldn't fit back in. He wanted to do new things. Natural disaster dreams are good to pay attention to because they usually indicate that changes are coming. They're not usually predictive of a disaster, but they show that deep changes are working their way up to the surface. So they can be subliminal in that sense, but the connection is to the understanding of self and our way of being who we are. We all have phases and times in our life when what is important to us, or what we are actively doing, how we live, begins to change. And one sense of self ends and another begins. These mark changes in our relationships, work, education, and value. External or internal conditions can cause them. They are linked and interacting, two sides of the same coin. Often the internal ones change before the external changes manifest. Subliminal dreams often show these changes before we are conscious of them happening. Natural disasters represent the world we live in, forces that begin shaking up, wreaking destruction, or represent a power greater than ourselves that we have to deal with and overcome, and learn to live with in a new way in the aftermath. If you got something out of this video, please hit the like. If you want more dreams, subscribe, or consider supporting the channel on Patreon with the link below. Till next time.